So starting us off on this list, number 10, we have Harif Saeed. Well, Saeed is the co-founder of the militant group Lashkar-e-Taiba and chief of Jama'at Dawa. Well, there has been a bounty of 10 million USD since 2012. So if you find him and capture this guy, you can be rewarded $10 million. Well, this bounty was placed on him after he had a role in the 2008 Mumbai attacks that caused 164 civilians to lose their lives. However, he claims that he had nothing to do with the attacks. And he laughed at the bounty that is out for him, stating, "I'm living my life in the open, and I might be somewhere in the US. I'm here in front of everyone, and I'm not hiding in a cave." Pretty damn terrifying if you asked me. Next up, number 9, we have Ayman al-Zawahiri. After Osama bin Laden was killed in 2011, al-Zawahiri has been the leader of Al-Qaeda. The terrorist organization is confirmed to have carried out numerous attacks throughout the world, leading to hundreds, if not thousands, of deaths, and they have also claimed responsibility for other violent crimes. There is currently a 25 million USD reward for information that leads to his arrest. Moving right along, number 8, we have Rocco Morabito. Morabito is an Italian mobster and something of an escape artist when it comes to evading the law. He has been on the run for 23 years, starting back in 1994. Is this real life right now? How can we not capture this guy? We have so much advanced technology. And he's been on the run for his crimes related to drug trafficking, the mafia, and other serious crimes. His wiki actually never revealed what his crimes were. They were probably too horrifying. But if we're dealing with the mafia, I can only imagine what he's done. I've watched a lot of movies. Well, he was ultimately caught in 2017 with a bunch of guns, credit cards, cell phones, money. But like I said at the beginning of this, he's an escape artist. So he was able to escape again in 2019. So we're talking just last year, and right now he's still at large. Number 7 spot today goes to George Luis Mendoza Cardenas. Cardenas is a Mexican drug lord, one of the leaders of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. This cartel provides marijuana, heroin, meth, and cocaine to some of the biggest cities in the US. He has been wanted since 2016, but also for the gruesome murder of a family of 6. He was arrested in 2008, but was mysteriously released with no explanation. My explanation might be drug money. He might have bought his way out of this one, and threats. He probably threatened a lot of people. He has been wanted by the DEA since 2016, and he's somewhere out there. Our number 6 spot goes to Nemesia Asegura Cervantes. Cervantes is the official leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel, above even Cardenas. He is the most wanted fugitive in Mexico right now, and the government is offering 30 million MXN just for the information that leads to his arrest. He is actually suspected on ordering the murder of 17-year-old YouTube star Juan Rosales, and this is after he made a video making fun of him. Halfway through this list now, we have Anders Cameron Ostevik Dale. Dale has been blacklisted since 2014 by the US Department of State, but he has been wanted ever since 2012 for his connections with Al-Qaeda. After breaking off contact with his wife, he has been reportedly missing since 2012, and he is suspected to have received explosives training, specifically in making bomb belts, explosives, and car bombs. He became wanted in 2012 after planning the bombing of the 2012 Olympic Games. Next up, number 4, we have Hayat Bomendini. Bomendini is wanted for being the accomplice to her husband, Amity Coulibaly, after he shot and killed a police officer at the Montarogue shooting. He also took hostages and killed 4 civilians in the Port de Vences siege, and this is where he was killed by police. So although her husband was killed by police, she's still out there somewhere, and she's still very dangerous, and she is still wanted. In at number 3 is David Durham. Durham has been wanted by the FBI since 2011 after shooting and seriously injuring a cop at a routine traffic stop. To this day, nobody is sure why he reacted the way he did. Did he commit other crimes that he didn't want to get caught for? His friends and family said that he has been on painkillers and seemed paranoid leading up to the shooting. He disappeared immediately after shooting the police officer, and even after extensive search, there has been no confirmed sightings of him. I mean, he's now become like the Loch Ness Monster. Like, where is he? Coming at number 2 is Eugene Palmer. Palmer is one of the most recent additions to the FBI's top 10 wanted fugitives list. And this is after his son and daughter-in-law separated and the DIL got a restraining order against her husband. She and Palmer got into multiple heated arguments. This escalated until one day when Palmer started shooting at her from a distance and then provided one last close-range shot that killed her. He has been on the run ever since that happened, and no traces of him has ever been found, other than the pickup truck that was used to flee the scene, but he has not been seen. And wrapping our number 1 spot, we have Xavier Dupont de Legons. Legons is currently at large for murdering and burying his entire family behind their home. Is this real life right now? Well, in early April of 2011, he shot and killed his wife, their 4 children, ages 20, 18, 16, and even 13, and their family dog. Their bodies were found a few weeks later under their porch, and despite 900 suspected sightings of this guy since, he has never been caught. This guy has become a mastermind.
Alright, we're going to be kicking off this list with Jeffrey Dahmer. This is one of the most twisted criminal cases that you can learn about. Jeffrey Dahmer was a serial killer throughout the United States in the 1980s. He would lead men back to his hotel room or to his home, and these men thought they were going back to Dahmer's place for some good old-fashioned sex, but unfortunately, they were about to get gruesomely murdered. Dahmer would drug these men, then strap them down to chairs, and then proceed to drill holes in their head and inject chemicals into their brain. It wasn't the drilling they were hoping for. He would record all this information in a diary, as if he was doing some sort of science experiment. He would also keep their body parts. When the police searched his home, they found a pasta pot full of human penises. They also found the skulls of his victims. Dahmer would keep them and decorate them. He would have like a little arts and crafts session. I'm not sure why he would do something like this. I don't know if maybe he was trying to sell them afterwards, but I feel like the resale value on skulls is really low. There's speculations that he would also eat the people, and that's how he was coined the name the Milwaukee Cannibal. After he was convicted, he was sentenced to 900 years in prison, and it didn't take long for the inmates to turn on him. After a few years, he was murdered in jail. At number 9, we have Leonid Minin. Some people want to make money and be rich, and they don't care who they have to step on to get it done. Leonid Minin is one of the most notorious arms dealers of all time. He sold weapons to people all throughout Africa, including the Liberian president Charles Taylor. This man helped fuel turmoil throughout Africa. His distributions of weapons led to thousands of deaths and children being ripped from their families to become child soldiers. Minin was a massive partier as well. He was known to indulge in drugs and prostitution. If you're an international arms dealer selling illegal weapons, I don't think you're gonna have a moral stance against paying for sex. That's like Jeffrey Dahmer being fine with eating people but not touching pork because it's too cruel. Eventually this man's crimes caught up with him and he was arrested. When he was arrested, he had over $500 million in goods on him. At number 8, we have Mokhtar Belmokhtar. This man is head of the African branch of Al-Qaeda known as Al-Murabitun. I bet you thought these guys were eradicated. Well, apparently they just won't die. They're like cockroaches, but they know how to use social media. Belmokhtar isn't just hiding in the shadows either. With all the other attacks going around the world, it's obvious that we don't get to hear about some of the lower tier terrorists making moves. But in 2014, he tried to pull off a terrorist attack on the Eiffel Tower, and the guy is a master of building his own bombs. Well, kind of a master. He did blow off one of his own eyes with a homemade explosive. Now he's like one of those eye patch dudes, which kind of makes him even scarier. His entire plan is to build an army of mercenaries in Africa and mobilize them, and then start attacking the Western world. So far, most of his attempts have been foiled, but it's still terrifying knowing that there's another Osama bin Laden wannabe trying to bring Al-Qaeda back to its former glory. And I use the term glory loosely. At number 7, we have Enedina Arellano Felix. She is known as the first ever female drug lord in Mexico. She's head of the Tijuana branch of the cartel, and this lady moves bricks and kills everyone. This section of the cartel was run by her brothers originally, but one by one they all fell, either being killed or arrested. After all the male figures were separated from the business, it was up to Enedina to step up and take control. Oh, and did she ever! She has a background in accounting, and through her business knowledge, she moved Tijuana's cartel back into a position of being one of the most powerful in all of Mexico. Mexico. Not only that, but after she came into power, the murder rate in Tijuana rose by 37%. You have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. And by crack eggs, I mean shoot people down in the streets in cold blood, and make an omelet, I mean spread cocaine throughout North America. At number 6, we have Moses Sithold. If you're into serial killers, then this one might have slipped under your radar. He's not often talked about, but is known as one of the most brutal serial killers to ever plague South Africa. His total time as an active serial killer is a little blurry, as all the murders linked back to him took place in just over a year, from July of 1994 stretching all the way to November of 1995. Moses was a predator who would lure his victims to secluded areas, rape them, and then murder them. In that short time frame of carnage, he was able to kill 38 people. This is why the total time of him as a serial killer is a bit blurry. It's unlikely that he was only active for the year and killed that many people. There might have been murders prior to that nobody was able to link back to him. He was able to avoid detection by jumping from town to town, with his killing spree stretching over 3 different cities. After he was caught, he was sentenced to 2,000 years in jail. Something I really like about his sentence is that he has the opportunity for parole after 1,000 years. This guy better start injecting liquid kale if he ever hopes to live that long. At number 5, we have Amado Castillo Fuentes. Fuentes is easily one of the most powerful criminals who has ever lived. He was the former leader of the Juarez Mexican cartel. This guy made his way to the top through blood and cocaine. Chances are if he did cocaine anywhere in the 90s, it passed through this guy's organization. He was given the nickname Lord of the Skies because of all the planes he owned to transport his drugs. His cartels killed thousands of people, and they worked super hard to make Fuentes one of the richest criminals who has ever lived. Of course, all of the money he made is off the books, so it's hard to tell how much he was actually worth. It's not like drug lords are into filling taxes out. You don't extort a small business for all their money and then ask them for a receipt with it. But it's estimated that his worth was $25 billion. He died in 1997, and it wasn't the feds or the CIA or a cocaine overdose to bring him down. He actually died from complications with surgery. Fuentes was having plastic surgery to help him hide from the people hunting him down, but the doctor couldn't pull it off. I wonder what happened to the doctor after he accidentally killed one of the biggest drug lords in history. Yeah, he probably died. At number 4, we have Gilles de Reyes. We are going to venture back all the way to the 1400s for this psychopath. Gilles de Reyes was originally a celebrated member of the army of Joan of Arc. After his military time, I guess the taste for blood was still in his veins, but he wanted to focus on easier prey. De Reyes would start to target young boys. He would lure them back to his castle, telling them he had sweets and other goodies to give them. After he brought them back to his lair, he would mutilate and torture them for hours. It's said that he gained the most pleasure from bathing in their blood. What he would do is slice open their throats and let the warm blood pour over his body. I heard it's great for your skin. Another sickening kernel of information is that his servants were all aware of what he was doing. They would help de Reyes get rid of the bodies after by burning them. I guess back in the 1400s, good servant work was hard to come by. Some people were like, I get my paycheck, I go home, no questions asked. I mean, I don't want to burn these kids' bodies, but I also don't want to update my resume. At number 3, we have Pablo Escobar. I can't imagine too many people don't know who this guy is. There's movies about him, songs about him, Netflix made Narcos, and not to mention an enormous amount of literature. Pablo Escobar was one of the largest drug lords who has ever lived. He operated out of Colombia and single-handedly gave the country the reputation it has today for being a cocaine mecca. During his reign, he was famous for bribing anyone who stood in his way, and if he couldn't bribe you, he would probably just blow you away with a car bomb. He became one of the richest men who has ever lived. During the height of his power, his men were spending $1,000 a week just to buy rubber bands to wrap up the massive amounts of cash that they had. At number 2, we have Jesus Ernesto Chavez. Some people are made for certain types of work, and even though this guy is probably one of the most horrible people to ever walk the earth, he was still very good at his job. Chavez was a hitman in Juarez, Mexico. He mainly worked for the Barrio Azteca gang, and while he was on trial, he admitted to killing over 800 people. See what I mean? Horrible person, but definitely employee of the month. And if you're wondering how he racked up numbers like that, well, he wasn't just killing gang members. Chavez was ordered to kill 8 civilians a day, every day, just to keep the city on edge. This guy's kill-death ratio is unbelievable. And for the number 1 spot, we have John Mongrel. I couldn't imagine a worse fate than getting sent to a prison in South Africa. Africa. And if you were so unlucky that you would be given this horrible fate, then John Mongrel would make sure that your time there would be hell on earth. He's one of the generals of the Numbers Gang, a ruthless gang in South Africa where each person is given a number that breaks down which division they belong to. For instance, the 27s are in charge of killing prison guards, the 26s are in charge of handling money. John Mongrel's head of the 28s, who seek out and kill enemy gang members. John Mongrel was sent to prison for murder when he was only 14 years old. Once inside, he joined the gang and has been on an endless killing spree ever since then. He claims to have killed over 1,000 people. There are small towns with less people living in them than that. And I think this guy has killed more people in real life than I have killed in all the virtual video game playing I have played over all my gaming years. After famous sprinter Oscar Pistorius was sentenced to prison, John Mongrel said that if he was sent to his jail, he would kill him because he didn't want him to think he was gonna get an easy ride in prison because of his status. I can't think of a harder ride than someone murdering you.
A Shallow Grave explores the disappearance of businessman Alex Steenkamp. On September 17, 1996, Alec went missing after going to collect money from a man named Kenneth Downey. After being missing for a day, his wife contacted the police and filed a missing persons report. But here's the thing, the police never investigated, they didn't even do their job. They interviewed the last person that Alec was in contact with, and that was it. That was until 8 years later, when a private investigator was hired by Alec's daughter. His daughter didn't want her father's case to remain unsolved. And guess what? Without too many spoilers, the PI solved this case and found Alec. That's all I'm saying though, you have to watch the rest to find out who did it. Now, what's great is that the shows are available in 4K without any additional fees and no ads or commercials. You can even stream it on a number of devices or cast it from your phone to your TV to watch it on the big screen. Now, Magellan is having an incredible holiday offer. They are offering buy one get one free gift cards for a year's membership. Honestly, that sounds like the perfect holiday gift to me. So if you're interested, click the link in the description and unlock Magellan's entire collection of documentaries. Now we'll continue on with the video. Starting off this countdown, we have Richard Matt. Matt's career as a criminal started off when he was young. He was involved in robberies, kidnappings, and then eventually murder. The first murder he committed was of his former boss. He then fled to Mexico to avoid being caught. While there, he murdered a second man while attempting to rob him. In 2007, he was convicted for the murders and began serving a 25-year to life sentence. But guess what? 2015, he actually escaped the facility with a fellow inmate, and they spent 20 days on the run before getting re-caught. And apparently he has a history of jailbreaks, so I don't know why they just didn't pay closer attention to him. In the end, this was his final escape since he was caught and killed by Border Patrol while trying to flee to Canada. In our 9th spot, we have the dating game killer. This dude gets his name because while police were looking for him, he appeared on TV for an episode of the dating game in 1978. He did this in the midst of his murder spree. In fact, the dater on the show actually chose him, but when they met afterwards, she said that she got a bad feeling around him and they never actually went on a date, which that was a close call for her, because during his appearance on the show, he had already murdered at least 5 women. His date would have probably been his next victim. This killer would often toy with his victims. He would strangle them until they lost consciousness, then he would revive them, and then repeat this process several times before taking their lives. In the end, he was convicted of murdering 5 women, but police think that his kill count is much higher. In our 8th spot, we have the razor blade. This story comes from a prisoner who was locked away in a Texas prison. The prisoner told the story of a fellow inmate who everyone feared. It was this woman who would violently lash out on her fellow inmates. One time, she even put a razor blade in a bar of soap and would use it to cut up other prisoners. When the guards found them, there was blood everywhere. So yeah, I can see why people fear her. I wouldn't want to get on her bad side, let alone even look at her. Moving on to number 7, we have Ronnie McPeters. One of the scariest inmates in the world is said to be Ronnie McPeters. Ronnie was sent to jail for the murder of a 27-year-old woman in 1984. The woman, Linda Marie Baltazar, was running errands when Ronnie came up to her window panhandling. She shooed him away and he left, but then he ended up coming back, this time armed. He then shot her 5 times. As a result, he was arrested and sent to Fresno jail. But his bad behavior never stopped. While in jail, he would set fires, attack other prisoners, and even sometimes would, smear his feces on the walls and floors and sometimes all over his body. Now, he was actually put on death row for his crimes, but he was deemed, and I quote, too insane to be executed. In our 6th spot, we have Joanna Dennehy. Joanna is a serial killer who in March of 2013 went on a 10-day killing spree. She murdered 3 men, but her goal was to murder 9. She said she wanted to be like the killers Bonnie and Clyde. After killing the men, she would throw their bodies in ditches. In fact, she has the title of one of Britain's most notorious female murderers. While in prison, Joanna has made it a point to prove to other serial killers that she is the best killer among them. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the inmate from hell. So this story comes from a nurse who worked at a prison. She shared the story of the scariest inmate that she has ever encountered. This inmate would go around biting officers in their arms and shoulders. He would headbutt them as well as even punch them directly in the face. He has broken people's bones and even ripped out chunks of flesh off of them with his teeth. Yeah, that must have been terrifying to see, like what the heck. Moving on to number 4, we have Pascal Payet. Pascal Payet is a French criminal who was sent to jail for committing a murder during a robbery in 1997. But he is famous for his daring prison escapes. In 2001, this dude managed to escape prison using a hijacked helicopter. But he didn't perform this stunt just once. No, he escaped twice. So obviously he was caught and then sent back to jail. Then in 2007, he did it again. It only took him 5 minutes. Within that time frame, 4 masked men hijacked a helicopter and took the pilot hostage. They then landed on the roof of the prison and used some device to open the doors and get Pascal out of his cell. Like I said, they were in and out within 5 minutes. 2 days after this escape, an arrest warrant was issued against him. Nowadays, he is never kept at the same prison for more than 6 months, and he is placed in solitary confinement where he is under high surveillance. They don't want him escaping for a 3rd time. In our 3rd spot, we have Damien Folks. Alright folks, let's talk about Damien Folks. See what I did there? Anyways, this guy, don't get me started. So this guy was serving a life in term in jail for armed robbery. While in jail, he attacked a number of prisoners. He strangled killer Colin Hatch with strips of bedding and also slashed the throat of Soham murderer Ian Huntley. And this is what he had to say to that. He said, "I hope I killed him. I've been planning it for weeks." Now, Ian Huntley did survive, but he had a 7-inch wound that just missed his jugular vein. But that's why Damien is considered incredibly dangerous. In our 2nd spot, we have Mark Hobson. Mark Hobson went on a killing spree in North Yorkshire, England in 2004. As a result, he took the lives of 4 people. But he was also involved in a nationwide manhunt, which involved more than 500 police officers and 12 police forces all looking for him. During that time, he was considered Britain's most wanted man. And this is another dude that is not afraid to get violent with others. In September of 2005, he poured a bucket of boiling water over a fellow killer. And on a number of other occasions, he has attacked other prisoners. As a result, he is another prisoner who is kept under close surveillance at all times. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Robert Maudsley. Robert Maudsley has actually been named Britain's most dangerous prisoner. Now you might be wondering, Lindsay, why is that? Well, oh boy, let me tell you. In 1977, Maudsley and his fellow inmates held another prisoner hostage. They tortured him for 9 hours before cracking his head open and killing him. And rumor has it that he even ate some of the prisoner's brain. As a result, he was deemed the real-life Hannibal Lecter. A couple months later, he murdered 2 other inmates, then casually told the prison officer that during the next roll call, he would be too short. As a result, he's actually kept in an isolated glass cell so guards can see what he's up to at all times. They don't want another hostage situation to occur ever again.